Jackson Castro. Hey guys. Oh, contrary to popular belief, I'm Jackson, not David. We do go way back though. I think one of my earliest memories was when we shared our first room together. It was always dark. You had this cute thing that you do where you consistently kick me in the face, and then my mother gave birth to us. So, a lot of new things were happening. I would go on to see David from time to time, across from me at the dinner table, backseat of the car, breaking my finger in soccer practice. There was this one time where I thought I saw him, and I ran to give him a hug, and I bashed my face into a mirror. That actually happened. It does weird things to your self-esteem when you are with someone who is extremely similar to you, looks exactly like you, is your equal in many ways, but is half an inch taller than you. Feel that. Growing up, David had two major skills: playing drums and spelling bees. He once won a spelling bee 3 times in a row. And I'm not talking about an annual event. I'm talking about the same spelling bee, because some parent was freaking out and taking it way too seriously after David won, because it wasn't regulation and their kid shouldn't have gotten out or something. So they reset it twice, only for that poor kid to lose to David 2 more times. Another thing that David and I have done together is literally everything. We have had every class in school together, every job together, going back to school together. We have never lived more than 10 minutes apart, and I imagine that this is going to continue until we die. And we are buried in the same coffin, because I'm never going to get my own room. We lived together in an apartment for 2 years and shared a room, and it was a 2-bedroom apartment. And I don't say this to make you guys think you're not going to have your own life. It's just that everything that was supposed to separate us never really did. But because I've attended all classes with David, I can tell you exactly where he peaked in life. It was in the 8th grade. He was 13 years old. And I remember this vividly. And this story to me is not as funny as it is magnificent. I remember we were sitting in Mrs. LeBlanc's class, and she called on you to write an answer to a question on the board. So you got up, you went up to the board, and you wrote the answer. You got it right, and that would have been impressive enough on its own. But David was not done. You know how whiteboards have that little 2-inch lip that stick out from the bottom where you put the markers when you're done? So he taps the marker and turns around and starts walking back to his seat. And without looking, he throws the marker over his shoulder, and it lands perfectly on the lip of the whiteboard. And sat down like nothing had happened. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. So I'm thinking, so not only is he taller than me, but he has powers. And I'm like, what's next? How do you top that? And he followed it up by doing nothing interesting for 14 years. And that's hard. Because you were 13. It's been longer than how old you were. I do have a question / grievance. As some of you may know, David actually has had chronic back pain. Over the years, about 7, I think, he has seen doctor after doctor. He's had negative scan after negative scan. He's gone through physical therapy, massage therapy, acupuncture, nerve blocks, you name it. He's tried it, hasn't worked. Then he starts dating Marissa. Miraculously, it's gone. Didn't you make it all up? The night David asked out Marissa was very fun. Basically, we were having a game night at our place, and long story short, he was going to ask her at the end. And I remember when I asked out my now wife, Sarah, that I was very nervous. So I wondered, is David very nervous? And I wanted to test it. So I put my hand over his chest, and like a little bunny rabbit, his heart was beating so fast and so hard, the same way it does when he sees brownies coming out of the oven. So that's how you know that he was excited. When David asked me to write a speech, he actually asked me if I was going to be able to, because our work schedules are crazy right now. And I made a joke with him. I just told him that, pass the buffalo sauce because I'm going to wing it. Thanks. I'll be here for a couple more minutes. But the truth was, I actually started writing this back in March. Because that was David and Marissa's first romantic interaction, appointment, whatever you want to call it. Just don't call it a date though. This is very important to Marissa. You do not call this a date. This is world-ending stuff for her. One date, but they were figuring out if they wanted to date. I started writing the speech because David called me after that. And he said in this tone, "I'm in love!" I think people were a little surprised when you two started dating just because of, the differences that you two have. Marissa is a little more, thoughtful, dignified, quiet. When David laughs, the room kind of shakes a little bit. But what some people might not have known is that David, while he can be perfectly bombastic, he can also be incredibly dignified. And while Marissa can be very considerate, she can also be clinically insane. I believe that David is an outlet for Marissa's intrusive thoughts. One story is you two were on a walk and you saw a mattress on the side of the road, and David said, "Do you want to go jump on that?" And Marissa basically said, I wasn't going to be the one to say it. And like they just got permission, they went for it. And that exact circumstance has happened more than once. And there's other times where David has to reel in Marissa. One story being, you guys were hanging out at Marissa's dad's place. You were in the backyard hanging out by the pool. And Marissa's like, let's be spontaneous, let's jump into the water. We got all our clothes on. It's like we're just like in the movies, right? And David was like, I have to drive home after this. So, no. David, I have seen you in happiness and heartbreak, in unstoppable days of laughter and years of chronic pain, light schedules and 80-hour work weeks, and this is what I want to say to you. Years ago, a faithful pastor did a sermon series called Servants of Whom the World Was Not Worthy, where he talked about faithful men like Peter, Moses, Abraham, Stephen, men of exceptional character. And when I look at you, I see that type of man. Maybe not the kind to lead a nation, but how about the kind to lead a family? The kind of man that has been tried and tested and wounded and broken, and yet here you stand. Because God is forging for you an unshakable faith with a character to follow, an unmoving resolve that is transforming you into a servant of whom the world is not worthy. You put the fruit of the Spirit of joy on display like nobody else. And I have the privilege of calling myself your brother, something that I am not worthy of. And speaking of not being worthy, Marissa. Wait. You think you know where I'm going with this? David is not worthy to be your husband. And that's okay. That's not his fault. Nobody would be so worthy of someone who so evidently clothes herself with the Word of God the way that you do. As a matter of fact, I challenge you to look out amongst this room with the ladies in our church and find even one that you have not significantly edified or served in one way or another. And I would go so far as to say that when many of them do consider characteristics of a godly woman, you are the first person that comes to their mind. And I say this with the utmost sincerity and fiery indigestion. Because the moment you two started dating, you started ruthlessly making fun of me. We didn't talk before that. We didn't have that kind of relationship. Like, we'll be having a conversation, and someone will walk by, and this is what I imagine. I imagine that they'll be thinking, oh, I bet she's like giving him some words of wisdom or just being so kind to him. And you're just like, yeah, we need some extra weight on our couch. You want to jump on it, Fat Jack? Thanks. I think you get away with it because you do it with a straight face. So people are just like, oh yeah. Normal conversation, you're tearing my world apart. But isn't that what big sisters do? And I am beyond excited to have you as a part of our family. No one in this world is going to love you more than my brother. And I encourage you to beam at the future, knowing that his love for you is going to grow every day, and that you're marrying a rock for your family. When you two look at each other, see a personal, tailor-made gift from God. Yes, we see that the most when we look to the cross. But now you two can see it differently when you look into each other's eyes and see God's love for you manifested in a person. A human love letter from God to you. So love the giver first because he knows how to give good gifts. And then love each other like crazy because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. But today, you have each other. I love you guys.
Mm-hmm.